The East African Community High Court of Justice over the weekend made a resolution that all case hearings will be done here in Uganda, and that was according to the Prime Minister, Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga. I want to welcome you to the Smart 24 television. This is the business edition. My name is PEDSON MUMBERE. Let me just go in for a short commercial break, and then after I'll be coming up with more stories that made the headlines in the days of the week. Welcome back from that short break. The business edition starts now. My name is PEDSON MUMBERE, and this time we are going to discuss the East African Community Court of Justice that made a resolution over the weekend that all court cases will be heard from here in Uganda at the Commercial Court. And the Prime Minister for East African Affairs and the First Deputy Prime Minister for Uganda, Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, updated the nation, especially here in Uganda, about that resolution. Let us have more from this very story.
That the East African Court of Justice will be convening in Uganda from the 1st of November to the 30th to hear new cases, but also to hear appeals and to deliver rulings in some matters. As you are aware, the East African Court of Justice is one of the organs of the East African community. It is based in Arusha. Under the treaty, they are supposed to be temporarily in Arusha, although they have been there for 20 years. But last year, they agreed that they should begin convening at least once a year outside Arusha. So last year, in 2021, they convened in Bujumbura for the 1 month. They have now come to Uganda to hold those hearings here in Uganda.
Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga explains how arbitration of problems involving international commerce will be handled. The East African Court of Justice recently amended the treaty to interpret it to deal with disputes under the Customs Union and Common Market Protocol.
The jurisdiction of the East African Court of Justice was amended. Originally, it was only to deal with the interpretation of the treaty, the rights of the workers of the community, and so on. But recently, it was amended to include now disputes under the Customs Union and also under the Common Market Protocol. So now the court will be able to consider those disputes about borders, about non-tariff barriers, and so on.
The concern is whether registries which enabled petitioners to submit their petitions online without traveling from one country to another will be in existence indefinitely to prevent incurring excessive costs.
The treaty is very clear. It says temporarily, in bold, temporarily in Arusha, but not 20 years. So I told my colleagues at the last council meeting in July that I think it is time we took a decision on this matter. Let us advise the heads of state to take a decision once and for all. Does it stay in Tanzania? Does it move to Nairobi? Does it move to Kampala? So that we know where it's going.
The court conference, scheduled to take place at the Mestil Hotel from October 24th through 28th, will take place prior to the beginning of case hearings and verdicts. The court will then proceed with them in 2 quarter sets. For example, 5 cases will be to deliver judgments and 11 cases for hearing and 5 scheduled for future hearing. Appeals will also be heard at a communicated timetable.
That was a good story coming in from there. I think all these cases, if they are handled here, maybe it's also one chance that Ugandan can be known in the entire East African community. Getting into another story here, most of the Ugandans over the weekend were robbed over 1.5 Uganda billions. This was during the weekend when one online betting company in the names of BLQ stole Ugandans' money equivalent to that amount. This is an online betting platform that Ugandans had started using. Most of them had started putting a lot of money and win a little bit, but now after this Ponzi scheme was closed after stealing that amount of money. Let us have more of this story from Desire Nambiru.
There are a lot of scams out there when it comes to earning money, making investments, saving money, and everything else linked to money. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have to worry about con artists attempting to take our money. But in the actual world, scams are still very much in existence. Sadly, they continue to swindle victims every year. Another Ponzi scheme, BLQ Football, shut down and fled with almost 1.5 billion Uganda shillings in stolen funds from the would-be investors. The state's finance minister, Honorable Henry Musasizi, made this official announcement to the media.
Attention has been brought to the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board on a company trading as BLQ Football Uganda on social media platforms such as the Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, WhatsApp, and its website called blq66.cc. BLQ company has been conducting betting activities illegally without a license.
BLQ has been illegally operating betting activities without a license from the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board. Speaking to Dennis Mudeni Ngabirano, CEO of the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board, he described the requirements under which a business can obtain a license to operate in such a sector in order to prevent further losses.
Just to apply for a license of the categories I've mentioned, one, you must be a registered company in Uganda, formally registered, and registered with other government agencies like URA and the likes. There are different categories of fees that you pay to get a license. We have categorized it in nationals and foreign companies. So for foreign companies, for an application for a license is about 20 million shillings. For nationals is 10 million shillings. So upon submission of all your legal documents of the company, we do an evaluation, and once we confirm that the documentation you've submitted meets our criteria, before we issue a license, we ask you to take out a bank guarantee of 500 million Ugandan shillings. It's upon receipt of that confirmation and after us verifying with the bank that has issued this bank guarantee that then we issue a license.
However, law enforcement agencies are coordinating their efforts to completely shut down the operations of BLQ Football and other con sites.
The government has effectively closed the operations of this Ponzi scheme, and the process of investigating similar companies are underway. How have we managed this process of closure? On 22nd of July 2022, the board wrote to Uganda Communications UCC notifying them of the illegal online gaming operations of BLQ Football Uganda. UCC issued a directive to internet service providers to block access of the fraudulent websites.
Ugandans have lost a lot of money through Ponzi schemes, and BLQ alone, it has calmed more than 1.5 billion from Ugandans. But the government and authorities have come up with tough measures to save Ugandans. Desire MUMBERE, Smart 24 TV.
You see, that was a lot of money, 1.5 billion. These guys did a lot of money. I don't know where the regulators in Uganda are, because if such Ponzi scheme, the BLQ Ponzi scheme, can steal Ugandans that amount of money going out of the country, moreover, this is a disaster. But still, this comes back to our Ugandans here. Sometimes we should know which one is better. If it is a Ponzi scheme, you should know that these are buffer online trying to steal Ugandan money. So we have to be so sensitized and more vigilant of such online platforms. 1.5 billion was a lot of money getting out of this country and nowhere to be seen. We can't see them. All their offices are now closed in the country here. Now, getting into another story here. Over the weekend, Smart 24 TV caught up with the South African commissioner who said that at their country in South Africa, they export coffee to their country, and yet Uganda is producing the best coffee here. And she was like, she is going to engage the two governments and see how they can enhance the coffee trade within the two countries. Luluma told Smart 24 TV that she is going to engage all the two governments and the governments of South Africa and see how they can enhance this. She actually appreciated the Ugandan coffee that we make from here. Let us have more of this story. In an interview with Smart 24 Television, Lulu Kingwana, the South African High Commissioner to the Republic of Uganda, said that she was shocked to find out that Uganda produced the best coffee not just in Africa, but also on a global scale. Using this as a foundation, she pledged to persuade the governments of the two nations to adopt coffee trade relationship.
And I would like to say, South Africa, we are the biggest coffee drinkers on the continent. We have coffee shops all over the country. We even have my grandkids who are 6 or 8 years old who always say, Granny, can you take us to the coffee shop? Because they do ice cream, they do coffee cakes and so on and so on. So I'm pleading with Uganda, let's take this coffee to South Africa.
The Uganda's exports to South Africa was US dollars 11.41 during 2020. That's according to the United Nations Comtrade database on the international trade. Lulu notes that this time Ugandan coffee will be part of the top imports from Uganda to South Africa.
We buy our coffee from Europe. This is your best kept secret. Before I came to Uganda, I didn't know you produce such great and wonderful coffee. So I think we need to talk and make sure that we take this good quality coffee to South Africa and we begin to trade with one another because our heads of state have signed the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which implores us to trade with one another and increase intra-Africa trade.
Ugandan coffee is amazing. Ugandan coffee is so, because it is amazing actually, it is the top crop that is exported from Uganda. The top crop that is exported from Uganda, that's how amazing it is. It has a few challenges. Within Uganda, it's not consumed a lot. So that is why coffee players like us are here to encourage consumption of coffee in Uganda because we make great coffee.
In mid-July, the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, a state agency under the Ministry of Agriculture, announced that the value of the country's coffee exports in June totaled to US dollars 58.6 million, ranked as a historical high since the commencement of the formal data collection in the early 1990s. Considering that there have been gaps in the marketing of Ugandan coffee, Tadeo William, an agricultural journalist and a licensed coffee nursery operator, suggests that government set aside funds to help close those gaps.
I think, you see, Uganda is the birthplace of Robusta coffee. It's Sono Arabica that was imported, I think, from Ethiopia. So when it comes to the best coffee in the world, quality Robusta coffee, Uganda is the country to look up to. Now, in terms of marketing, there have been definitely gaps in terms of marketing. This, and of course, the private sector can't do much about it because it requires, a lot of resources to do this. So as government promotes coffee as a priority crop, it should also put some money aside to market Uganda's coffee, both locally, regionally, and the world at large.
Financial institutions also pledged financial support towards young coffee farmers to boost production.
We've partnered with the Uganda young coffee farmers. You have seen them. When you think about a coffee farmer, you don't imagine that a fresh-faced 25-year-old girl will come out to say, I am a coffee farmer. But we found them, and we are working with them, and we are supporting them because we know that the future belongs to these people. And it is our job to empower them and to lift them so that they can soar and take this economy to the next.
I even realized that the farmers themselves don't know how coffee tastes like. That's how bad. That's why we only consume 3% of the coffee that we grow, and we send it to Europe and stuff, and then they send it back as Nescafe and stuff. So that shows you how much Ugandans have not yet appreciated coffee. We are not marketing it enough. We have not seen the value in it.
Uganda's primary coffee type is Robusta, which amounted to US $50.3 million in exports in June, with the remainder earned from Arabic coffee. PEDSON MUMBERE, Smart 24 TV. Yeah, I saw the South African High Commissioner testing our Ugandan coffee. Of course, I was there, and she felt nice, and she was like, no, this should stop. We couldn't be importing in coffee from Europe to South Africa, and yet the Ugandan coffee is the best here. And some of the Ugandans, you saw them discussing the same thing. However, maybe there could be the problem of marketing our coffee to the outside world, and this is what some of the Ugandans say that we should work on, and maybe the government should allocate some little amounts or some funds to see that we enhance the market of our Ugandan coffee here so that it can reach at the international level. Getting to another story here, rice farmers in Uganda have always been complaining that Museveni should ban the importation of rice to Uganda because they are also producing the same and their market is getting down. However, during the celebration of our independence at Kololo A Strip, Museveni was like, no to that, because we are also exporting some items to Tanzania. So we cannot stop them from bringing their rice here. Let us have more of this very story.
The Ugandans wanted me to stop Tanzanian rice. Please, I will not do that. If the Tanzanians are growing rice more cheaply, let them grow it and you buy from them. I was told of some attempts to block rice from Tanzania in order to protect the inefficient rice growers of Uganda. I could not accept such blindness. Why? First of all, punish Ugandans to consume expensive rice while Tanzanian brothers can produce cheaper rice. The other blindness is that you should remember that if you block Tanzanian rice, Tanzania will also block something else from Uganda, where then is the future of prosperity for our region.
Recent calls for the government to reconsider a strategy encouraging more rice imports from Uganda were made by the rice producers and traders who claimed Tanzanian rice was driving them out of business due to its low price. In this appeal, the Ugandan Rice Association expressed an alarm over the ongoing erosion, the East African Common External Tariff policies, and the shift towards greater rice importation. Several stakeholders have also expressed their thoughts on the current state of the rice industry.
First of all, the rice growers in Uganda must survive. So that protection must be provided, and we shall ensure we provide that.
A lot of rice is coming in from Tanzania. The good rice, the grade 1 rice, but also the grade 3 or 4 rice is coming in without any controls. That means that the people who have invested in the rice business cannot find enough business for them to grow, because they are being overtaken by the cheap broken rice from Tanzania. So we need to look for a way to balance, because if I have an industry that I'm trying, a homegrown industry that I'm trying to take off the ground, and then external imports come in and overtake me, my industry will collapse.
However, the Member of Parliament for Kabweri County, which is one of Uganda's rice-growing districts in Kibuku district, warned the farmers about the quality of rice they produce.
Quality of our rice is rice mixed with stones. It is rice mixed in terms of variety. So it is better that there is a proper training on how we sort the rice, how we dry the rice, and machinery to ensure that all of the rice that is going to be exported is sorted. Because we have one comparative advantage, that the super rice from Uganda is almost the best type of variety in the whole world, the best rice. So if we could take that niche and produce a lot of super rice of Uganda, it would sell even a higher price than any other rice.
The Uganda Revenue Authority removed import taxes on all rice from Tanzania on July 27, 2022, prior to the abolition. The former tariff on these products was $47.9 per ton of rice. In a letter from July 29 that was released by Mr. Alexander Rubanda, Assistant Commissioner for Trade at the Uganda Revenue Authority, announced this tax exemption.
You see, Tanzania and Uganda are East African Community member states. So we are promoting, in East African Community, we are promoting trade relationship. I think that's why Museveni refused to ban the importation of rice from Tanzania to Uganda, because Tanzania and Uganda, they are member states in the East African Community, and we are looking at the trade relationship. So if Uganda ban the importation of their rice, what about us who are also exporting our products from Uganda to Tanzania? And these are some of the trade wars that we have been fighting between Kenya and Uganda. To me, I think President Museveni saying he cannot ban the importation of rice from Tanzania to Uganda, to me, I think it is the best decision. But you're free to make your own judgment. But basing on the East African Community and the trade relationship, I think he was right there. That is me. Let us get to another story here. We are getting to the fintech ecosystem in Uganda. Fintech is finance and technology. But we have been having some online innovations here. Some Ugandan youth have been coming up with apps, the trade apps that can make them to enhance their businesses. But they are always crying of lack of money. And according to the reports, they're saying that 57% of the fintechs are self-funded. A youth of Uganda can come up with an online innovation that can help boost trade, but he fails to access capital just because he doesn't have money. This story was done over the weekend, and let us see what the fintech experts are saying in as far as funding is concerned. According to Josephine Olok, the board chairperson, Financial Technology Service Providers Association, FITSPA, partnership, investment and capital are key pillars in helping the fintech ecosystem.
We understand that the funding, that 50% funding, which is self-funded, is not sustainable, because how much can you keep asking people, your friends, your family for money, right? So, and even you yourself, you may not have deep enough pockets to keep your business running. So there is a gap in the market, and that is why at FITSPA, we are creating partnerships with different institutions. We have ABI Finance who are helping us to generate some financing, but I think we can do more. We know that funding does come into the country, and there are a few fintechs which have benefited from that, but we know that a lot more fintechs can benefit. So the issue is, how do we attract investors? How do we create partnerships? How do we, as the discussion was progressing, how do we ensure that local investors also get an understanding of what the fintech market is, what the opportunities are?
Recent research on the status of the fintech sector in 2022 shows that 57% of the fintech startups are self-funded, which is unsustainable. Therefore, it is crucial to diversify its sources of funding. According to Robert Mukiza, the Director General of Uganda Investment Authority, setting up a firm in Uganda is simple for both domestic and foreign partners. He mentioned that Financial Technology Service Providers Association FITSPA will now be listed on the portfolio to open them up to more contributions and working on comprehensive regulations as a way of eliminating fraud in fintech.
It's quite important because you see fintech is, and especially when you're talking about payment solutions, regulation, there is a lot of risk involved in that, particularly when you're removing the interface with the person. But the role of government is to see how they can make the regulation an enabling regulation, whereby it reduces the bureaucracy and the transaction costs to start your business or to thrive.
It's going to be handled under governance, good governance and regulation. So as you know, a lot of our fintechs, a number of fintechs are now regulated under the central bank, and that requires governance, good governance, cybersecurity, and making sure that they're dealing with and having processes in place that deals with fraud. The other thing is also making sure we create the partnerships, because a lot of our fintechs are regulated with say NITA, under UCC. So we do have partnerships with those institutions.
When the National Payments Systems Act 2022 was passed, it was relief for participants in the Uganda's rapidly growing financial technology ecosystem. There was a sense of uncertainty and growing worry at the moment because of the main field of possible issues that arose from lack of regulations.
Since the enactment of the 2022 National Payment Systems law, there were implementing regulations that came through in 2021. So the operationalizing of these regulations is ongoing. So in terms of being able to get the license, I would implore the listeners or people who are acting under this particular space to first of all understand their business models. Where do they fall within this regulatory ambit? Are they payment service providers? Are they payment system operators? Or are they offering payment instruments? So in terms of the regulatory requirements, I would refer them to the specific Regulation 3 and Regulation 4 of the Implementing National Payment Systems Regulations 2021, which categorically outline the requirements one has to have and the particular forms someone has to fill so that they can have these regulations, they can regularize their operations and acquire a license with Bank of Uganda.
UCC, Airtel, as MTN, but also the Association of Payment Service Providers to really combat, the fraud incidents that are happening in the market, because financial services will thrive with trust. If the customer doesn't trust the system, they will keep the money under their mattresses. So we have done quite a bit, I think, for the past 2 months now, aggressively pushing communication on radio in terms of the need to protect the customer's PIN. This has happened mainly through social engineering, the cases that we've got. But from the time we did that sensitization, the cases have significantly dropped.
Today's fintechs have improved interconnectively between financial institutions thanks to services like MTN and Airtel Money. Compared to 0.6 million consumers and 133 billion in transactions in 2015, mobile money use has increased quickly with over 30.74 million registered users and a transaction value of 79.8 trillion in 2022. Looking at the overall economic outlook, the digital economy contributed to 6.3% to the Uganda's GDP, 3% to Rwanda's GDP, 9.4% to Kenya's, and 17.83% to Nigeria's. Nigeria and Kenya, with respective contribution to the digital economy of 17.83% and 9.2%, are at the top of the rankings. PEDSON MUMBERE, Smart 24 TV.
Okay, that being said, I want to thank you for still sticking to the Smart 24 television. I'll be going in for a commercial break, but when I come back, more stories will be coming your way during the launch of the Insurance Appeals Tribunal.
Smart 24, driving